The Second World War gave a big boost to many types of technology: tanks, rockets, electronics, and aircraft. There's one area which is not mentioned that much, and that is the operational helicopters in World War II. There were many interesting German developments in the second part of the war, and the Allied soldiers encountered many German high-tech weapons. But when they see these futuristic-looking things over Germany, some of them really didn't know what to think about them. We are talking about the World War II German helicopter, which was such a good design, its intermeshing rotor concept was used in other aircraft after the war, and it still lives on to this day. This was the Flettner FL 282 Colibri. So let's see the history of this aircraft. Just like in many other countries around the world, the Germans were interested in the helicopter concept between the two world wars, and many successful and less successful designs were developed at that time. But the first practically usable helicopter was the FA-61, which was first revealed in 1936. It could take off vertically, hover, and had good directional control, and used the pitch on the rotor blades for the control of the aircraft, just like modern helicopters do. Though only 2 prototypes were built, these showed a glimpse of what helicopters are capable of, and made the Army, and especially the Navy, curious. The Flettner helicopter came from a line of experimental designs developed by Anton Flettner during the 1930s with the support of the German Navy. The Navy at that time was looking for a small aircraft which can land on ships and fly between the shore and the ships with ease, so they supported Flettner's experiments, hoping his designs could be what they are looking for. The first of this family was the FL-184, developed in the mid-1930s, but this aircraft was actually not a real helicopter but an autogyro. In 1935, Flettner received a contract from the RLM to build the prototype. Though this experimental aircraft was a successful design and showed promise, it was cancelled when the only prototype was destroyed in a fire. Flettner's work, however, didn't stop here, and the next variant, the FL-185, was an evolution of the concept. He developed the autogyro into a gyrodyne, featuring a 3-bladed lifting rotor and 2 horizontal pulling ones on each side. The FL-185 could take off and land vertically and hover in place, which was possible because in flight the 2 side propellers worked in opposing directions, giving the same effect as the single-tail rotor on modern helicopters. The prototype was built and testing began in 1937, and though the design showed promise, it was considered too complicated and was abandoned. But the test results led to newer designs, and the next in line was the FL-265. This aircraft, developed in 1938, was the first of Flettner's designs to use intermeshing rotors. The German Navy already ordered 6 prototypes to be built even before the design was finalized. They were excited about the new aircraft because this new design left the autogyro concept and put the emphasis on the main lifting rotors, and was a big step towards the modern helicopters we know today. The first flight was concluded in May 1939, piloted by Richard Perlier, which was followed by many other tests, including naval trials, landing on cruisers and U-boats. The Wehrmacht also tested these new vehicles, not just as reconnaissance, but for lifting heavy loads or towing barges during river crossings. To prove the new aircraft is not as vulnerable and helpless as many were suspecting, tests were conducted. Fighter planes simulated attack runs on the FL-265, but they failed to score any hits after several attempts, thanks to the maneuverability of the helicopter. The aircraft was actually seen as such a success, it was meant to go into large-scale production, but by that time its successor was already in the works, and that was the FL-282 Colibri. The FL-282 was a completely new design. It used similar intermeshing rotors as the FL-265, and it was a fully operational helicopter without any horizontal puller engines. It had a lightweight tubular welded frame, featuring a tricycle landing gear and a center pilot compartment. It used the SH-14 7-cylinder air-cooled engine, which was lightweight and low maintenance. This engine, though it had relatively low output of only 160 horsepower, needed low maintenance, and it could run up to 400 hours without servicing. The FL-282 was a small aircraft, only weighing 760 kilograms and had a length of 6.5 meters, so this low-power engine still allowed the helicopter to reach 150 km an hour maximum speed and have a range of 170 km. At the rear of the aircraft, a big horizontal stabilizer was added, and the steering of the FL-282 was done by the combination of the rudder and the changing of the rotor pitch. The radar was also a necessity, as the Colibri was able to go into auto-rotation if needed, which made it a very safe machine, but when the rotors were not turning, the only way to control the aircraft was with the radar. The helicopter was too small to carry any weapons, but by design the landing gear and rotors could be removed, so it could be stored in tight spaces, as there were plans to even use them on submarines. The first 3 prototypes were built with fully enclosed cockpits, but interestingly the later production models were only partly enclosed or completely open. The new helicopter made its maiden flight in October 1941, with Ludwig Hoffmann at the controls. The test continued all the way through 1942, with different modifications applied to newer prototypes, different tail surfaces, and changes to the propeller drives. After the installation of the second seat at the rear, the internal fuel tank was changed to 2 smaller tanks on the sides. They also tested new 3-bladed rotors, and though they resulted in smoother operation, they were deemed unnecessary. Similar tests against fighter aircraft were conducted as on the former FL-265 version, as the military staff still had no experience how the fragile, slow-moving aircraft could survive an attack from the faster, well-armed fighter planes. A test against Focke-Wulf 190 fighters resulted in the conclusion that at higher altitude, above 700 meters, the aircraft could aim at the helicopter, though given the big speed difference only for brief moments, especially if the helicopter performs evasive maneuvers. At low levels and on difficult terrain, the helicopter can outmaneuver the fast fighter planes easily. They were tested against ground fire as well, shooting several different caliber weapons at an unmanned hovering FL-282. It was found that the moving rotors had a very slim chance to be hit, and even when hit, the bullets did little damage to them. After the first flights, the Navy immediately ordered 45 units for evaluation. They were tested and used under different climates, from the Baltic Sea to the Mediterranean. The Navy planned to use the Colibri as a submarine spotter. It was a very stable and very maneuverable aircraft, and it could land on warships even in bad weather and strong winds. The landing and takeoff were tested many times, sometimes on heavy seas, but the FL-282 managed to land safely on the ships every time. Special landing platforms were constructed on different ships, and the Colibri had to land on these roughly 5 by 5 meter platforms on the moving ships. The FL-282 actually flew more hours than any other World War II German helicopter design, as it went through very strict testing. By 1943 some of them were used operationally, protecting convoys in the Mediterranean, though at that time only around 20 of them were built in total. Later in the war the Wehrmacht planned to use them as artillery spotters. Luckily the FL-282 was designed as a 2-seater from the beginning, so it was no problem adding a second seat at the rear. The big plans for using these helicopters for many different roles were hindered by the constant Allied bombings though, as the manufacturing had to be relocated several times. In 1943 the operations were moved to the east because of the intensifying Allied bombings near Berlin, but later in 1945 they were moved back, as the Red Army was approaching from the east. Though in 1944 a contract was signed to build 1,000 units, their factory was destroyed by Allied bombings, so large-scale production of these great helicopters never happened. By the end of the war, most of them were destroyed, though the Allied nations raced to get their hands on one. Only 3 of them survived. One was taken to the Soviet Union, another one to the USA, but both of them seemed to vanish. The only restored model today is on display in the Midlands Air Museum in England. After the FL-282, Flettner was already working on other designs, including the bigger FL-285. This helicopter was a larger version of the 282, able to carry bombs and using the more powerful AS-10C engine. After World War II, Flettner was moved to the US under Operation Paperclip. Later he became the lead designer for Camel Aircraft Corporation, and some of the designs still carry the legacy of the World War II FL-282. A good example for that is the Kaman K-Max, which is still available today. There were other interesting helicopter developments during World War II, like the bigger German FA-223, or in the US the Sikorsky R-4. We will take a look at those in later videos. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, subscribe to my channel, and in the comments let me know if there's any interesting events or vehicles you'd like to see.